Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Completionist. I'm back for the entire winter this time, guys. Usually, I'm only home for a couple of weeks during the Christmas season, but this year I'm actually home for a couple of months. So I wanted to use all this extra time that I'm going to have off and actually get some content made for you guys. And at least with having a few months off, I can actually experiment with some different ideas that I thought I could do with my channel. And one of the things that I'm actually looking forward to doing is getting back to my How to Complete series, because let's face it, it's been a long time, since I've actually had some gameplay footage on my channel. But for the first video that I wanted to do now that I'm back, guys, is another episode of a completionist point of view. And the topic that I wanted to look at is something that I've had to deal with in my gaming life ever since I made the choice to move out west to work, back in 2006. And that's pretty much the aspect that I've fallen behind with regards to the current trends of gaming. And that's literally the reason why I've titled the video, Forever Falling Behind the Times. Because working away from home is going to be a constant in my life, especially, for the next 4 to 5 years. And unfortunately, I've adopted the philosophy of pretty much all work and no play. Well, I get a little bit of play, on my days off, but if you want to try to succeed in life, you have to try to work for it. But unfortunately, my video game playing and my video game hobby has kind of taken a hit because of it. And I just wanted to pretty much take a deeper analysis of what it means, when you allow yourself, to fall behind the times, especially since gaming, especially this year in 2017, has probably been one of the best years, I've personally seen with regards to, a lot of new releases. But the harsh reality in my life, guys, is throughout the entire year of 2017, I've only bought one 2017 release. To be honest, I've only bought 2 video games throughout all of 2017. The one video game that I did buy that was a 2017 release was the Friday the 13th game, for the PS4. And the other game I bought for my wife, since she's a fan of the series, but it got released a few years ago, was Star Ocean 5, Integrity and Faithlessness. And 2017 has been one hell of a year, guys, with regards to games. There have been a ton of releases that have actually caught my eye, but the harsh reality in my life is I don't really see myself playing these games anytime soon. There are just other retro games that I've never had a chance to play that I would rather play at this current moment in time. But the reason why I think Friday the 13th was the only game I bought in 2017 was because I have a lot of fondness for that film series. For my friends that know me well, besides, enjoying anime, enjoying anime style games and trance music and things along those lines, one of my really big interests is I love horror films. Most specifically the slasher serial killer subgenre of horror films. I don't usually like, other subgenres of horror, such as the torture porn, the ghost stories and stuff like that. I can still get my enjoyment out of them, but I love watching, the franchise horror films, like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and stuff like that. And even a lot of the unknown slasher films. I just get a lot of enjoyment out of them. When I do get home, I have a really good friend of mine, and usually once or twice during the time I'm home, you know, we'll usually marathon, you know, 2, 3, 4 slasher films just to get them watched and, you know, see if they're actually really good, or if they're actual duds. It's actually been a lot of fun, especially since we've been doing it over the last couple of years. But I have really been getting my enjoyment out of the Friday the 13th game. Even though it's not a perfect game, it's a very flawed game. You know, there's server issues. You know, it has a ton of bugs, but the game is incredibly fun to play with friends. I'm currently playing the game right now with my wife's best friend and one of her friends, and it's just fun. You know, all three of us, you know, trying to work together, you know, to escape from Jason, or, you know, even try to kill him, or, you know, anything along those lines. But that has really been the only 2017 release that I've actually played. I think for me, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, I stay behind with regards to the current and greatest things in gaming is I've always adopted the timeless factor of video games. And it's a thought that many of you have heard from me before, is that I try not to allow myself to be a slave towards the current trends in gaming, because I believe that all video games have the ability to be timeless. You know, it really irritates me, you know, when I hear people say, well, you know, this game has aged terribly. And I've used the saying often before, guys, that I don't think it's video games that age terribly. I think it's our attitudes towards video games that can sometimes age terribly. Because for me, regardless if a game is brand new, 5, 10, 15 years old, it's still a new experience to me. And generally, I'm a person that does not care about spoilers. People can spoil anything for me, and I'm not going to kick up a big stink about it. But for me, if it's something that I've never played before, I feel confident that I can still get my enjoyment out of it regardless of how old it is, or how new it is. And it's just how I've always been. You know, there are just so many great games, you know, throughout the last 20 years that I've never had a chance to play. And when I do play them for the first time, I feel pretty confident that my enjoyment level is still going to remain the same. I guess the only really exception to that rule, you know, when it comes to timelessness, is that if your game has online functionality. Because obviously the online servers aren't going to last forever, and, you know, if you do enjoy the online aspect of a game, then obviously that's not going to last forever, because it's only going to be a matter of time before they actually shut the servers down, and then you won't be able to play online anymore. And if the online aspect was the best aspect of a specific video game, then you are going to have to play it, you know, during the time of its release. Or, you know, if it's a really popular game, then they'll keep the online servers on for a long time. But gradually, you know, people will lose interest and, you know, move on to something else. So, but I think another reason why I've fallen behind the times, guys, is that just because of my work situation, it is very hard to keep up with it. You know, I could really go out and buy a new video game system right now, but it's just, what's the point of owning one if I'm barely going to have any time to play it? And it's just with all the traveling that I do, and, you know, with the amount of hours I work, you know, sometimes I can work 18 to 24 days straight, you know, 10 to 12 hours a day. There's really not a lot of time to game. You know, sometimes after working a 10 to 12 hour day, you know, you just have enough time to get home, cook something for yourself, and maybe watch a few YouTube videos, and then it's time to go to bed. Because with regards to right now, and the current generation of consoles and portable systems, I only have 2. And that's a PS4 and a 3DS. I don't have a Vita, I don't have an Xbox One, and I don't have a Switch. And let me say something about the Nintendo Switch. I was not really fond of the idea of the Switch when it first came out, I thought it was going to be a very gimmicky system. I really thought it was. Its aesthetic didn't really seem appealing to me. But after seeing what games that have come out for it in 2017, I am just absolutely impressed with the game library that that system has in the short amount of time that it's been released. And eventually, I'm going to own one. And because there are just too many titles on that system that I eventually want to play. But I'm in no rush. Because for all the great games that that system has, they're still going to be around. Now, just because of the collector scene, you know, it might be a little expensive to get them, or you know, you just never know, you know, with the market these days. But I am really loving the game library that that system has so far. And even though still to this day I haven't even played not one Switch game, but just watching all the reviews that I've seen from the YouTubers that I'm subscribed to, and you know, seeing all the gameplay footage, it's given me more than enough reason to actually own one. But I'm in no rush, because I have plenty of games to play now that I'm home for a while, and I'm really in no rush. And in all honesty, guys, you shouldn't be rushed. You know, I try to make the analogy, you know, you shouldn't treat a video game, you know, like a fast food meal. You know, to try to play it and beat it and just move on to the next one. You know, a video game has got to be savored. You know, it's got to be enjoyed. You know, I don't expect any gamer to be a completionist, because you know, a lot of people often say, you know, Derek, if a game is giving you so much grief with regards to completing it, you know, why do you still play it? I think it's something that, you know, I just take a lot of pride in. You know, I don't really consider myself a skilled gamer. But I'm a gamer that has an incredible amount of patience. And with every video game that I do play, I do like to challenge myself. And I do like to try to do everything in that specific video game. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm never in any rush, and you know, I try to take my time with it. You know, even though, you know, I've been home for almost 2 weeks, I really haven't had that much time to game. You know, the only games that I've played since I've been home is I'm playing Friday the 13th a little bit. I'm still trying to actively complete Final Fantasy 15. I almost got everything done in the game. I'm playing the expansion Final Fantasy Comrades right now, and that's a lot of fun. And I've been playing a little bit of Breath of Fire 3 off and on, because I still have to grab gameplay footage, you know, for my how to complete video regarding that game. But hopefully in the next couple of days, you know, I'm going to start getting through some of my PS1 RPGs, because I made a promise to a very long time YouTube friend of mine that, you know, I'll eventually give Final Fantasy 9 a try, and that's a game that I've never played before, and thankfully I don't really know much about the game, and I don't really know many spoilers, but you guys have permission from me if you want to post spoilers about Final Fantasy 9, you know, down in the comment section. I'm not going to get offended by it one bit. So one of the other things I wanted to do in this video, guys, is since there have been a lot of games from 2017 that have impressed me, but I can't really see myself playing them anytime soon, just because of my work situation. And but I wanted to share with you what my top 5 games that I wanted to play for 2017 are. So let me just grab a drink. Throat's getting a little dry. Because this is how I stay on top of gaming news. You know, I like to watch you guys. I like to watch your reviews. I like to watch your gameplay footage, especially with regards to what is being released in the current year. Because I always keep it in the back of my mind that of what games to watch out for. You know, if I ever get an extended amount of free time to actually go out and play them. So the number 5 game, guys, is kind of an obscure JRPG that I had no idea whether that was even released until a few JRPG gamers started talking about it. It's not necessarily, you know, the most biggest budget JRPG title around, but I just love the whole visual aesthetic of the entire game. And that game is Blue Reflection. I think one of the reasons why I'm excited to play it is, from what I've seen, it seems like it tells a really good story, even though a lot of people have the same complaints that the story kind of falls apart at the end. But from the gameplay footage that I've watched, I actually love the turn-based battle system of that game. It kind of mixes turn-based with some elements of Grandia. You know, you can actually see when your characters are going to attack and when the enemy characters are going to attack. And I've always loved that kind of style of turn-based battle system. And as strange as this sounds, I just love the color of the game, the visual aesthetic. It's very shiny, and I always got a fondness, you know, for like crystals and the color blue and just water and sky and things along those lines, and and the game just looks really beautiful. And even though it may not be the deepest JRPG experience, the visual aesthetic alone is enough to keep me interested. Because another game that I was very impressed with the visual aesthetic, even though I didn't really care how the gameplay was, even though thankfully it turned out to be a really great game, was Valkyria Chronicles. I love the visual aesthetic of that game. I love the watercolor, kind of just really bright and really colorful art that game had. And even though the gameplay turned out to be great, I was impressed just by the overall visual aesthetic of the game. And vanillaware titles, you know, such as Muramasa the Demon Blade and Odin Spear and Dragon's Crown, that game series has a very beautiful artwork aesthetic to it. So sometimes just all depending on how a game looks is actually enough to get me interested in it, regardless if the gameplay may be a little on the weak side. But from the people that have played Blue Reflection, from what I've watched, it seemed like that they really got their enjoyment out of this game, and it really gets me excited to actually play it, you know, when I have a free opportunity to do so. The number 4 game, guys, is a game a lot of my fellow YouTubers have played, probably have cursed and swore at, and I actually get a good kick out of them watching it, and that game is Cuphead. I grew up loving, you know 80s cartoons, and it's one of my favorite aspects of my childhood. But I grew up watching, you know, these cartoons, you know, from the 30s and 40s as well, because I remember having a ton of childhood friends, and they would always have a VHS tape, you know, of like Betty Boop cartoons, or, you know, old school Popeye and stuff like that. And I always, you know, appreciated those cartoons because, you know, they were incredibly funny, incredibly entertaining, and to see a game be built upon that concept was just a pure delight to see. But I think one of the reasons why, you know, Cuphead appeals to me as a gamer is because it does something that I can respect that games do. And from the gameplay footage that I've watched, I think Cuphead does a great job of what I consider is transitional difficulty. I like games that are difficult. I really do. You know, I know a lot of gamers can get very frustrated about it, but I think if a game can be difficult, but it can still keep that addictive factor to keep you playing, then I think that game did the best job that it could to make it appealing to as many video game players as possible. I just love that addictive difficulty feeling. You know, you can die 40, 50, 60 times, but it just makes you keep on playing. And I love that, and I wish more games actually perfected the art of a good transitional difficulty, because one of the things I often find as I'm completing video games is that, especially when it comes to playing JRPGs or stuff like that, is because I usually end up being so overpowered by the time I hit the halfway point of the game, then the rest of the game doesn't feel challenging anymore. And you know, I like video games to actually have a bit of a challenge. You know, one of my biggest pet peeves is that I think the final boss should be the hardest boss in the game, but I can't tell you how many times that I fought the final boss of a specific video game and it turned out to be a complete joke. You know, that's the reason why the final boss is called the final boss, is because they should be the most difficult boss in the game. But I think if a game can really cater to that really excellent aspect of transitional difficulty, that alone is enough to make me enjoy it. And that is one of the reasons why I do look forward to giving Cuphead a try. But the harsh reality is, guys, I can't really see myself playing it anytime soon, because Cuphead is only released for the Xbox One and on PC, and I don't have either. You know, this PC behind me, it's quite a powerful computer, because it's my wife's built computer. She actually built this, but she has a rule that no online gaming is to take place on it, because it's her video editing machine as well, and that's what she mostly uses that computer for. You know, for her art projects, and you know, and when we do video editing, you know, for YouTube and things along those lines. But you know, who knows? You know, maybe in a couple of years, you know, I can actually get a gaming PC, or you know, a really high-powered laptop, and I can play the game that way. Because I'm not really impressed with the Xbox One gaming library, and I can't really see myself owning that system anytime soon. But Cuphead is definitely just going to be one of those timeless classics, and I think it was just one of those games that the video game industry really needed. Alright guys, the third game is from a very beloved video game franchise, and that game is Super Mario Odyssey. You know, I always grew up loving Mario games, even though for the longest time, you know, I always preferred 2D Mario over 3D Mario. You know, I haven't played that many 3D Mario games. You know, I played Super Mario 64 and a few others. And for a while there, you know, I was kind of getting tired of the Mario formula. You know, I thought it was getting a little old. But after watching so much gameplay footage of Super Mario Odyssey, I think that game did the best job it could have by making itself appealing to both new players of the Mario franchise and old players of the Mario franchise. I just love everything about that game, and I'm glad Nintendo really took their time to try to make this game as good as it could possibly be. And I think the scores that it got from a lot of gaming publications, how much gaming YouTubers loved it, really put Mario back on the map, and it really showed that Mario is the very definition of excellent 3D platforming action. This game has got me excited to actually play a Mario game again. Because it just seemed like, you know, it took the best aspects of 2D Mario and 3D Mario and just put it into a game where they put in new gameplay mechanics, and it just turned out to be an enjoyable experience for everybody. And you know, from some of the reviews that I've seen of this game, people have actually called this game, you know, their #1 game of all time. And some people have said, you know, it's their favorite Mario game of all time. And even some gaming publications have put Super Mario Odyssey as the #1 game of 2017. And from all the footage that I've watched, I think it's highly deserving of that. It's going to kind of bother me a bit to see like where Nintendo can go from here with regards to the Mario franchise, because I think one of the reasons why I want to play this game so bad is not necessarily because of the overall gameplay aesthetic of the game, but like I love games that are collectathons, I really do. And it seems like Mario did a really respectful way of doing that, with all the moons that you have to collect. And from the gameplay footage I've watched, there's always something interesting to do. And it never feels bothersome, it never feels, it never feels tiring, it always gets you excited, to make you keep doing it. And I think if a game can do that, then I think it's a true testament towards how good the game really is. I guess the harsh reality for me, guys, is I won't be playing the game anytime soon. I don't have a Switch right now, and it'll probably be another year or two, before I eventually own one. But I do look forward to like giving this game a try. The second game, guys, that I'm really excited for that got released in 2017 was a game series I was really getting tired of. It's a very old video game series. It's a video game series that has a very devoted fan base. But this entry in this video game franchise has actually got me interested in playing the franchise again. And that's The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I had a really big problem with the Zelda series because it always felt like I was playing the same game. It always seemed like that the formula would never change with regards to a lot of Zelda games. And my favorite Zelda game of all time has not changed in a very long time. It's always been A Link to the Past. And I was just never impressed with like the later entries of the Zelda series. It just felt like, okay, well, we got a new story, and now we're collecting something different, and now we have to go through this dungeon, and then fight a boss at the end. And I just really did not think that Nintendo was interested in reinventing, the Zelda formula. But after seeing so much of Breath of the Wild and seeing how they completely turned the series upside down, but it made it so appealing to a new generation of players while still having enough there to cater to older, more veteran players of the Zelda franchise. And with seeing how beautiful the game is, how big the game is, how expansive the game is, I think Nintendo gave the Legend of Zelda series a much needed revival with how they decided to take this game. And it's actually got me really excited, to actually play Zelda again. I think one of the things this game appeals to me from a lot of the reviews that I've watched and from a lot of the gameplay footage that I've seen is that they actually made this Zelda game difficult, especially at the very beginning. And I can appreciate that, because Zelda games were always a little on the easy side, until the later dungeons. But I've seen so many players, get killed in Breath of the Wild, but it still keeps you playing. And it's actually nice to have a very difficult Zelda game. And this is a game that when I eventually get around to playing it, I'm really going to enjoy it, because there is a ton of stuff to collect in this game. There's a ton of stuff to keep you busy, and it's a challenge that I absolutely look forward to. And in a way, even though I'm not generally fond of open world games, but I think taking Zelda into the open world was the right approach, because it's not the typical Zelda formula anymore. And I think, when you're not afraid to take a risk, it can sometimes pay off. And it's the same thing with Mario. A lot of people are saying, you know, Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game of all time. And a lot of people have put it as their #1 game of 2017, and even a gaming YouTuber that I look up to, that I don't think his #1 game would have ever been dethroned, but it did get dethroned by Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that YouTuber is the Happy Console Gamer. I never thought that, you know, nothing would ever beat his #1 game, which was Phantasy Star. But yeah, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild ended up dethroning Phantasy Star, and it's now his favorite video game of all time. And I'm just really excited to give it a try, but just like every other game on this list, I can't really see myself playing it anytime soon. But I think Zelda and Mario and their entries on the Switch are going to be known as timeless classics, and regardless if you play them at the moment of their release, or if you don't get a chance to play them until 5 or 10 years after their release, I'm sure they're still going to be wonderful, timeless experiences. And my #1 game, guys, obviously it's going to be a JRPG. And what has been the one JRPG that has met and exceeded everybody's expectations this year? And I think it's a pretty easy answer to that question, and that game is Persona 5. You know, even to this day, I own every Persona game except the Dancing All Night series and Persona 4 Golden for the Vita, but I own every other Persona game. But what I've seen in Persona 5, it just makes me grateful that the game did get delayed as much as it did. Because I used to see JRPG game players get really pissed off every time that the game got delayed. But I know the reason why the game got delayed as much as it did is because they wanted to make the most perfect, flawless experience that they could. And as far as I'm concerned, and from the gameplay footage that I've seen, and from the reviews that I've watched, they did that. They not only did that, but they excelled at it. They kept the core aspects of what makes the Persona series enjoyable, but they just made it that much better. And it is absolutely something I'm just excited for. I just love everything about the game. I love how the gameplay is, I love the visual aesthetic, I love how difficult the game can be. And it's really hard to know how the next entry in the Persona series is going to excel. It's really hard because from what I've seen, I don't think there is any way to improve, but a lot of people thought there was no way to improve from Persona 4, because for a lot of people, they consider Persona 4 to be the best in the series. And then when Persona 5 came out, I guess that shattered that thought process. But I think Persona's just making its way, because for the longest time it was always known as like a little underground RPG series in the West, and then it finally started to like gain a little bit of traction, you know, when Persona 3 came out, and then Persona 4, you know, it got even more popular. But I think after Persona 5, I think it's official to really call the Persona series a AAA JRPG gaming series, much like Final Fantasy and the Tales of series. It's just that every game has managed to improve upon its predecessor, and I can't find any reason to not like this game. And I need to get around to playing playing some of the other Persona games, but it's just the harsh reality of my life. You know, I just don't have that much time to play games these days. You know, it's like that old saying. You know, when you were a kid, you know, you have all the time in the world to play video games, but you have no money to buy them. And as an adult, you have all the money in the world to buy video games, but you have no time to play them. It's all about finding that perfect balance. And now with having the next couple of months off, I'm going to definitely try to take advantage of that time to actually play some classic games that I missed out on growing up. So, but regardless of how I play my games, I'm always forever falling behind the times, and I don't think there's really anything I can do to change that. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my insight, you know, into my thought process of with regards to current gaming releases, and you know why I can't really keep up with them. But with video games literally getting better and better with every year, at least I can take pride in knowing that there's always going to be something good to play, regardless of how old it is or how new it is. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching this episode of A Completionist Point of View, and as always, take care, and I wish you nothing but the best. Later.